Why, hello, Algebra 2 students. This is lesson number 75, and our objective is how do you factor denominators with sign changes? So this is kind of something we've done already. There's just one small new idea that we're adding to it. So really this is mostly a review section. So we'll try to move through it fairly quickly, but not too quickly. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to factor these denominators, because remember, to add or subtract we have to have the denominators match. So the denominator of this first one, I have to have an x and an x, and I need to find factors of 6 that subtract to give me -1. So those are going to be 2 and 3. And then I'm going to need to have a +2 and a -3 to get me to that negative. The top is x plus 3. And then this right hand side, notice I have a 3 minus x. Now it's nice if I have pieces from this one and pieces of this one that match up, because then I just have to multiply less to get the denominators to match. And I'm noticing here that this one and this one look very, very similar. This is x minus 3, and this is 3 minus x. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this one right here for a second. If I take 3 minus x, what if I took and factored out a -1? Now, just bear with me. What if I said -1 times -3 plus -1 times x? Notice this -1 times x would be the same thing as like saying minus x. And -1 times -3 would actually give me that +3. So this is the same thing as this. So what I'm going to do is I can factor out that -1 on the outside. On the inside, it would be -3 plus x. Or I can switch the order of that and say -1 times x minus 3. And then what we can do, since we have that negative right there, we can actually combine it with that negative. Negative is a positive, so this would change to plus 3 over x minus 3. So this part right here is kind of the new concept. And so you don't necessarily have to show all these steps. If you want to jump from this first one down here to that last one, that's okay. So you kind of switch the order and factor out a negative. So we're not quite finished with this problem. Remember, we want to get those denominators to be the same, so I need to multiply this by an x plus 2 over an x plus 2. So my whole denominator is going to be x plus 2 times x minus 3. And then on the top I'll have an x plus 3. This is going to be a 3x plus 6. Then combining like terms in that numerator, I'm going to have a 4x plus 9 over x plus 2, x minus 3. Let's try two more that have something similar to that. Factor this denominator here, so I'm going to have an x plus 7 on top. X and x, this last one's positive, so they'll both be the same. That's going to be 1 and 1. So notice I don't have an x plus 1 here, I have a -1 minus x. Do something similar, we'll factor out a -1, and I'm going to switch the order there, it's going to be x plus 1. So notice if I factor this, multiply this back in, it'd be -x minus 1, which is the same thing as -1 minus x. Again, I'm going to combine that -1 and that -1 to say plus, and it's going to be 3 over x plus 1. So I just need to multiply this by another x plus 1 over x plus 1. So my denominator is going to be x plus 1, I'll just call it squared, just to save a little bit of writing. I'm going to have an x plus 7 plus 3x plus 3, which is going to come out to be a 4x plus 10 over x plus 1 squared. Alright, let's do one more of these now for fun. Yes, I did just say that for fun. It's going to be an x and an x. Factors of 15 that subtract to give me 2, 3, and 5. So I'm going to need a negative 5 and a plus 3. That last one's negative, so I know the signs will be different. Notice this right here. 5 minus x is the same thing as negative 1 times x minus 5. Because if I distribute that back in, that'd be negative x plus 5. And if I switch the order, it'd go back to this. So I'll use that negative 1, and that is actually going to change my sign now. So I'm going to have x minus 3 over x plus 3, x minus 5, minus x plus 2 over x minus 5. I need to multiply in then an x plus 3 over an x plus 3. My new denominator is going to be x plus 3 times x minus 5. Up here I'm going to have an x minus 3 minus, I'm going to go ahead and FOIL these out here. It's going to be x squared plus 3x plus 2x plus 6. It's getting a little long here. So it's going to be x minus 3 minus x squared. These two together is 5x, so minus 5x minus 6 over that same thing, but just to save time. Okay, so I'm going to have a negative x squared. I have a positive x minus 5x's is going to give me minus 4x. And then that negative 3 minus 6 is going to be negative 9 over x plus 3 x minus 5. And that is going to be my answer. Your homework, I know it said worksheet, but the worksheet didn't work out. So your homework is going to be on page 103. You're going to do the practice problem. I think there's just one of those. 6 through 9, and then 5 more of your choice.